Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of I Am Legion Development. My name is Jason, the creator of I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2, and we're going to continue on with the video here. I had to take a quick break and look at some things, but I am back and I'm continuing to go through the system. So basically, this part of it will take off right exactly where I just left off. So essentially, what I just found was the system where the sensitivity, the hearing sensitivity, was higher, and so basically, I'm going through and getting rid of some of the things that were not working well with the FOV sensors, and then I'm increasing some of the things like the hearing sensors and trying to balance those systems out. So if we go here to our source, we're going to actually go ahead and do some testing and see how this all plays out and make sure that this is all working appropriate. But basically, the concept here is that I'm trying to expand the knowledge of the AI, and I don't want to go too far as dialing in everything only for the versions of the NPCs that um, that don't have good sensor data. So if we want improved sensor data, and what I mean by sensors is essentially an AI has the ability to do things like see around their environment, to hear things, all these different systems are present, and essentially the concept of loading. Just give it a second there, okay? And so if you have all of these different systems that are making up the AI system, if I go in there and recreate their behavior now, then a lot of that won't take into account um, their updated system, which their updated system will hopefully have better sensor data. So once I have that better sensor data in there, then we need to go ahead and say like, okay, what can we do now that the sensors are more dialed in? How can we get those systems acting more appropriate? That kind of thing. So I've put all of the sensor data back, and so before previously I tested after pulling all of that sensor data out, as far as the ones that I had modified, and so now I'm going to go back inside the environment now that I've tweaked some of that, and let's just start to see how these guys do in the environment with increased sensors. I'm actually hearing a lot of fighting. I'm also seeing a lot of fighting down low. I think I see a bandit off in the distance here who's not fighting. Yeah, so we have a bandit here. Let's see if they... Okay. That looked pretty good. It wasn't as bad as it was before, of where they just kind of stood around and waited. It looks like this guy lost the battle over here. And you can see that this is actually an FOV, or this is actually an LOD bandit. And so if we do this, you can actually see that it all just resets. So this is actually kind of like a fake system that's off here in the distance. It's not actually executing in real time. So if we go here, and I think that's a bandit down below, it is. So we have a bandit down below. Let's test our let's test our updated sensor data here. I don't think there's a ledge underneath this. No, it's pretty much just a straight drop. So let's see if we can get a little bit lower. Maybe that will pad our... Hey, you probably heard that. So here's an example. We've got this bandit who's standing here where I've turned down the FOV sensors. We now have these bandits that are just chilling. Look at this, though. No, that's a tactical bull, though I thought it was the crossbow for a second. I've added the crossbows to the level list, but doesn't look like they're actually showing up. So So the FOV for these guys is pretty bad right now. Looks like those limitations really did not work. Let's see if we make noise. Now they heard that, so the noise system is working, the investigation system is working, and then the FOV is working. So they saw me after they got thrown off, and now he's able to actually fire. So I need to continue to work on those FOVs. Now they all see me and they're working correctly. And then so when they have throwing activated, you can see here that the throwing sensor allows them to see higher, but it looks like for the bowmen, they don't actually know. But also, I mean, you can see here how the targeting system is working. They actually targeted that zombie. You can see their heads turning towards the zombie. I think what I want to try to understand and get a better knowledge of is like the group behavior where basically they say, I'm being attacked by a zombie. See how you have all these idiots that are standing around watching these guys be attacked? This one just started firing at the zombie. This one now started firing at the zombie. So if they actually started working together, here you've got another bow and arrow who's standing over there just staring. And it caught. And that's another thing. I've got a couple of these encounters that are not working correctly because the basically they're not supposed to be in the world unless the player's supposed to be the only one that can actually do anything about it. So far, I feel like the PK are probably the best balanced of the AI right now, in the sense that they know how to attack the zombies really well. So I really like how, the world exploded and that then brought down these zombies. I think what I would like to try to ideally do is continue to dial this in. So here we have a bandit, and then we've got a peacekeeper. So if anything, it looks like the bandit code is not using the same code as the peacekeepers, and you can see here now our Romero zombies are actually moving into they're coming in on our peacekeepers here, but our bandits around the corner here and over there, they're just not responding. So I think this is where it's branching off a little bit, where the bandit code is not as good as these other guys. So these other guys are continuing to communicate and work together. They're looking at me, so I think he just spotted me up here. And then when they spot an enemy, they all move in together, and that just looks really solid. So let's see the example of so now that we've seen that, let's see how these guys respond to the virals. Oh. I don't know what that was. Interesting. That's not good. See if I can head back to that same location. So here we are back in the same location, and you can see that those virals, their line of sight is working probably too good. So they're able to see me really well. Getting some weird things here where I guess V is an attack. Okay. I thought I pressed C, but obviously I did not. And then for whatever reason they've lost me now. Maybe they didn't have like a path up here. Interesting they saw me on that ledge, but now it's hard to tell if it's because they already see me. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So here's 3 bandits and the world reacting to them. We know I've messed up the field of view sensors a little bit because they're not actually able to break that horizontal plane. It's so interesting how they maybe it is their sensor data is blocking them. So let's go ahead and crash that out. And let's go to here. Let's actually just stick to the mod here. Let's go into scripts, params, and let's clear out their FOV and see if the hearing. So it seems like the maybe, and also the actor. So let's kill the actor and the FOV and just see what we start to get here. Because I think this could just be me not understanding enough about the float values that they're using here. Make sure that I can see all the windows here. So my guess is that if I did delete that to check on the human code, but my guess is that if I had left that and gone into the night, we would have seen. So he looks like he's looking at me there, but he's not. See if it makes some noise. Nothing. Okay. It's interesting. He saw me so well, but these guys, not so much. So let's go down a floor. So they're seeing the zombies come around the corner here. They've seen me. They're no longer concerned about the zombies. Hey, Luzzy, thanks for joining, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the support. There's one thing I like to fix. It's making them smarter against these zombies. They are just really dumb. Like, we got them throwing stuff. They are just not concerned about the zombies at all. And that's the reason they're all just getting wiped out, is that they just cannot see the zombie code. As they just don't see these guys as targets, like, at all. Which is interesting. I felt like in the last one, I felt like they did. Pull this back up. I felt like when I had... I mean, the biggest thing is their group behavior. I mean, if we go and we pull up their human investigate, and then also, what if we say human combat update? I did save this, right? So maybe a problem with it not working is because it didn't actually save. Is night. And that seemed to actually really work. So let's see. So update group. They're going and they're getting this information about the, like, they're going and they're getting these different things. Hey, Dante. That's what I'm looking at now, is that basically it's so many different systems here. But basically, the sensor data, I've turned that up to where the sensors are way more sensitive, and they just see the player. They're just hyper focused on the player. They're not paying attention to, like, the different guys walking up. And actually, I think while I'm here, there's just so many different things to jump through here. Let's see. So on our AI life, in our behavior trees, our context, our humans, and then under combat, they have this tactic branch. Let's actually back up a step and go to their combat. So when they're doing their combat, they get the update. The combat update forces them down into group behavior or common behavior. Their group behavior tells them what role to take inside of a group, but it's not telling them things like... So here's their tactics. Stay back, aggressive, cautious. So if they have a two-handed weapon, and they've had a group member die, Is group damaged? Is combat target in radius? Is other group member close to the position? And then it sets their tactics cautious and morale state. I guess the question is that why this is their update tactics. What I might do here is say I might create another one that says basically use bow, and this is for setting more. I mean, technically, I don't think there's a tactic associated with bowman versus, so tactic might be the wrong way to do it. I need to figure out with their common here. Let's go over to the search really quick and type in, so this needs to narrow down to human. And then let's go in here and say group, move, group, gather. Basically, I need to fire this. If we go into a couple of different things here. If we go into our human side here, it's this one. If we say group, the human survivor has go to group target. They have go to group target. If we go back up to the top here, there's a chance that maybe some of these other humans are not getting the full tree. Maybe there's a chance that they have like some of them that are getting this like init once code, because this doesn't reference anything else. So potentially they have a part of the, let me search through the code here and figure out if they're calling this anywhere. I mean, they should actually. So we should be able to narrow down how they're calling this one. If we go in here and say find, and let's clear that. Find. Yeah, so the bandits are using this init behavior tree along with the others. So if we, that's actually E3. So if we go here and say, where's open world? So we go to open world and we go down through the bandits. What are the PK using? So if we go in here and say PK, they're using the generic one hand, and the generic one hand are using what? So go back up here, say find. They're using the generic base. The generic base is using the human behavior tree as the main behavior tree, and then also this init tree. Okay. Oh, there you go. So they are getting this, they're all getting this init. I mean, almost all of these are feeding back to the generic base. So everyone should be getting this human init. So if we look at the human init basic, it basically says pull out their weapon, create human weapon modules. And I think this is more for the quest NPCs that they start to request orders from the quests. And then they've got this older one, I guess. The same thing, it's just not commented. So they've got the older one. Okay, so they're all using this tree, so that rules that out. Um, During combat, this says temporary disabled, fixed startle reaction during combat, visibility recently changed with alert state recently changed. Visibility recently changed with alert state. So they turned off the ability for them to be startled. That's cool, Dante. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Um, I don't understand all of it either, but it's mainly just taking the time to learn. Um, Normally they hook this up to, so normally with like this system, they would hook this up to, there's another one, human snapped. Interesting. Normally they hook this up to a config file that says, in the config file, are we enabling or disabling? But for some of these, they're just saying like, it's just turned off. So human startling is turned off right now. I'm curious if I go to human startle, what does this do? Oh, they didn't release it. Or no. Okay, I need to fix this because I keep having the same problem. Um, it's my fault because it's pointing to the wrong folder here. Startle. All right. So then in startle, it has a value of target. It's the if it's the player set target. Has combat target visibly changed recently. Has active weapon. I wonder why they keep calling special conditions for like the two-handed melee. So startle distance sets them to a system called vulnerable. This then has them back up or behave in a certain manner based on which which angle you hit them from or you come in and do. Um, it requires a direction. It requires a target. Yeah, so basically, I tried to write the code for making custom AIs, and that can all be found under these folders here. So all of those can be found under a folder called presets, and underneath that, it's like logic, human AI, and then all of the different AI types are right here. And you can basically go to the original code in the actual game, like the data zero, where all of this lives and has been extracted. You can actually remove this from the data zero completely out of the game, and it still all works. So they've got some like they're pre-baking this information into their game. They're not open for new. It's not looking for new types or anything like that. So we're pretty much stuck with the NPCs that they've already categorized at this point. The difference is that I want to make them smarter. Um, so let's let's go ahead and turn the retreat system back on. I turned that off so that I could get to the bottom of some of these issues. Let me go ahead and turn that system back on because that will help. That will help with some of these things. So enable retreat needs to be turned to true. We say find in files. Pull that over so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Enable retreat needs to be set to true. Not that. True. Go ahead and replace this in all the different files. Save all. So then let's go ahead and close this, because as we found out before, if you modify those files, it freaks out. Let's check fork and make sure those all updated. Yep. All right. So retreat is now set back to true. To confirm that these systems are working correctly, let me go ahead and launch in again, just to confirm that. So basically, last night, what I determined is that they will actually actively retreat from being attacked by the AI. So they will actually fall back properly. The difference is that something about the way they've got the code written, they now detect the player, even though I've turned it off. I'm setting in every single file, don't take the player, like don't run away, force run away from the player. Somewhere that's being set. So when I jump in there, they're running away from me. Hey Dante, I just actually saw some of your feedback and questions on the on my other mod, and then also on there. Thank you so much for your compliments, and I appreciate the support. So with that, so essentially all of that code is being compiled at runtime. So you add that to a list of code that has to be compiled by the engine. And when you don't compile that code, when you don't compile that code at runtime, that might actually save things for like some multiplayer where they're trying to do multiplayer on a couple of different things. If they're having to look for custom zombie types or something like that at the start, that could be a problem for like multiplayer. If people went in and created new different types of zombies, that probably wouldn't sync up appropriately. So with this, you take certain parts of the code and you make the code to where it won't do that. So this is improved sensors. So I've turned off the field of view sensors. So they're throwing weapons. We're trying to throw, so they're actually responding. And then they counted the amount of zombies and they said, this is too much, I'm out. So they're getting closed in on, oh, check that out. So they're retreating upward, which I was thinking about writing in anyway. So they do actually do that. I think the challenge is they don't stop. So they don't go to a specific location. Now, I did add that last night where I was experimenting with that. So they may stop at a certain location. And then this guy, poor guy, last man standing, decided to try to take him on. And he just tried to flee, but that didn't work. His buddies, let's go follow his buddies here to find out where they're going. Also, Alex, thanks for the compliment. I appreciate that. So you can see here that once they go into a retreat, they essentially just keep retreating. And this is actually code that I want to work on anyway, because this is what the volatiles do during a chase. They then start pathfinding from the UV light, and they basically run until they die. So they'll just keep running until they just eventually stop running. And he's now just a wandering AI that is useless. He'll just keep running. I'm curious, does he Uh, well, actually, and that's another thing is that. Whoa. I've never seen that before. Just me? I've never seen those just blow up. If anybody's seen that before, please let me know if you've seen that before. That made no sense. So these guys, they're attacking me, right? So they attack. Got a huge group here. And then they're like, psych, I'm out. Is this one gonna blow up? Now I knew that was in the game. I just had never seen um I had never seen it automatically blow up before. So then he sees me, he comes up to fight me, and then he runs away. So this is kind of that example of where the retreat system that they have in here, it's closed. Like this is ideally, a system that I want to expand, but by itself that, that's fairly useless. So let's go ahead and go over to our retreat. So we've got retreat back on. What I need to look at now is this high threat system. And that's what I was trying to determine if the sensors. So I'm actually going to switch back over to the sensors. We now have that turned back on. So as long as I stay away from them, we should see their natural reactions to the environment. And then obviously if I get close to it, that's going to be a problem. But let's keep going through the list here. Obviously the FOV is still an issue. So I guess before I go much further, let's go down to the human settings for the FOV really quick and say, okay, so they have this secondary angle, they have this primary angle, and then here they have this minimum horizon range for full range up. So, and then they have this range vertical up. So let's go ahead and say, just for shits and giggles, let's go ahead and make them what should be they see me right away. And maybe let's fine tune down instead of before. I was trying to be realistic with this. Let me go ahead and back things up. So let's say, and I still need to go find a goon to confirm some of my changes work. So say backup for human AI, improved detection and responses. Okay, and we'll continue to dial that in. And then continue on this. So we say 15, or actually, let's do it appropriately so it gets better the higher alerted they are, so that we should be able to potentially see some scaling here. So let's say 20, 25, and then let's also increase these guys to 30 on the range and effective range. I think all of those, I need to test distance, but let's go ahead and just keep going here. So let's say 15 up. What did we do before? 15 up. I think this was 1. 15 up. 1. And this vertical up actually plays a large part of this into a large part of the system, where if you want your guys to like climb and that kind of thing, this actually, wow, there's a typo and a half. If you want your guys to start climbing, there's actual vertical distances that you're supposed to calculate to be able to determine do you want them to be able to climb up this height, that kind of thing. So let's see here. That should fix the sensors for the FOV before I launch. And again, let's just kind of start to dive through a couple other sensors. Yeah, exactly, Alex. Thanks for suggesting. So basically, what I want to do is when they retreat, I want them to say, "Look for others." So as they retreat back, they say, "Look for allies," and so the goal is to try to make them form a larger group. The larger the group, the more likely they are to be able to get the upper hand. And then, Alex, are you the same person as Shazboy on the Discord? Okay, just wanted to check, just because it'd be easier to answer your question on here than it might be. So basically, with the quest code, um, a lot of that is kind of locked away. But probably the biggest thing with the quest code is that, from what I found with Dying Light 1, is like modders probably shouldn't even bother touching this until they have like finished a good amount of the DLCs, because they will go in there and absolutely just fully reamp some of their code for the different ones, like, and they'll refactor storylines and stuff like that based on what they did with story with Dying Light 1. And so because of that, there's like little things you can change, but I would highly discourage trying to go write your own um, systems right now as far as the quests go, just because like I wouldn't even like spend the time. I'm actually staying away from certain parts um of the code right now, just because I'm sitting there and like there's just no way that they won't change that to the point where it's like we'll just see. So here's a combat environment sensor profile. This is looking at the actor space checker range and then prediction time. It's creating a nav to the target. It's interesting that they've only got the goon. Why did they specifically target? They increase these things to make it to where they'll get to them. Consider dynamic objects. Allow navigation connections. I wonder if this is actually, so I was having this problem before where I couldn't actually get the goon by his default climb. He's on the nav connections is actually where you have a gap in between the buildings or the different surfaces, and so it needs the ability to raycast over and jump. So that's an interesting one. The combat position sensors here, nav path to combat positions, tolerance. With tolerance, usually you can't really do much with that. Danger zone sense. Interesting that the radius is so small on this for humans default. Unless I don't understand what radius this is. The update interval seems fine. Danger seems fine. The radius seems, and I've set a couple up to where they are actually using the danger zones, but now I see here that the danger zone could actually mean very little if this is set down to like such a small area. Oh, very cool, Alex. Well, the big thing is probably trying to figure out what you're trying to accomplish as far as like the storyline, and from a technical standpoint, seeing like how much overhead that would cost. If it's things like changing spawns and that kind of thing, some of these systems are not even available. like I can't go change spawn positions. I might be able to change the flags that are being spawned in there, but like even that I've had like such hit or miss, results from. So I would have to go and see based on like what you're trying to like what your changes look like. But I will tell you that I am pure of heart in the sense that I got only a little ways into the game and then specifically stopped playing because I knew that I would not be happy with the end result. And so I actually have not played through the game. And so I've been writing code for the game since it released, literally the day of release. I started on the mod, and then physics are back, but I still have not played through, and I'm actually going to do a series after I'm done with 1.0. I'm going to actually do a Let's Play Dying Light 2 with I Am Legion 1.0, and that's when I'm going to go through everything and try to flush out as many as those of those systems as possible. And I think that will help give me a better understanding of what I would like to change based on what I'm seeing. And so that might actually need to happen before I go, have an understanding of like what's happening when and like how to impact those. So I'm gonna actually increase the danger zone radius. Let's actually give them like let's give them like a fairly large zone here for the danger zone. And the human default should cover. There's no such thing as like a bandit default, so that should be fine. For the defend sensor, they only have a default here. Defend warning range, ignore warning. Stop hold after hit. So they have a very basic concept of like an actual like defense system. Their interest portfolio, I've modified this. I tried to do a search and find out if there were other things I could add to that. And sadly the answer for that is nothing yet. For the line of sight profile, I actually want to drag that over, and I actually want to go to the human default, and let's match up with what I've written down here. So I've made some basic improvements here. Humors, virals, viral default is actually going to be, I set that to 20, but yeah, I need to stick to the systems that I'm saying. So 2025, chase is supposed to be 25, 30, and then charger, viral resting, volatile is supposed to be higher. Okay. We have this motion sensor one, which is interesting. That technically I'm not sure what is happening here with this default. I don't actually know if the default is being applied to every group. This could be like a storied camera for all I know. Walk nav mesh threshold. I'm gonna do something here to test out and see what happens if I assign this to our humans. So if we go in here, say sensor params, let's go in here and say human default, minimum fall height, fall threshold, fall nav mesh threshold. Let's say, so I think this is like, I did the same thing twice. Is that another typo? this system might actually not be working, considering that's definitely a typo. I found a couple of these as I've been going through. So based on the one above, that should be a Y. Now I'm sitting here going like, what if I fix this? Like, what if I just fix it? Maybe I'll just leave it alone. And let's just see if AI apply it to humans and then also possibly fix their typo here. Let's see. That might actually be pretty bad for if it's like an actual full blown sensor. Um, and then this is a gather range. This might relate to their grouping code. So I'm actually going to increase that a little bit and let's just see what happens with that. Guessing this is more animal code, which when they released their first game, they had like the concept of like alligators and like a bunch of animals as well, monkeys, that kind of thing. And they never did anything with it. And so I've always wondered, like, you know, are they ever going to do anything with this? Like, are they ever going to bring animals in? I found so much horse code. There's a ton of horse code in here, and there's no. Let's see. So this is their target system. Oh, well, there you go. That's actually, I think that's the problem. Is right there for the targeting system. That would explain why they're. I mean, I found a couple of different systems that are making them lock onto the player, but by default, maybe for storyline, this should be left true, but for the human defaults, let's find. Oh, and I wonder if for the zombies. Oh, I hope this is not the case. Let me see here. They have this thing in the system where basically, if they begin a sync action, um, which is basically like once you've been grabbed, then everybody is like, essentially everybody stops moving, kind of thing. And so, I wonder if I go in here and say disable that. I'll leave it for the player for the zombies, but for the humans, say false. Trail is required. Target evaluation, grace lost. Target evaluation type. By distance, favor players in line of sight. By distance, favor players in line of sight. Let's see if we can figure out where they're calling that. If they're ever defining this in the code. And we probably want to use the broad search here. But this could be why our 4 NPCs are so stupid, is that they are actively seeking out the player. Prediction time, keep target range AI, keep target grace period, keep target range last position, range last position. They have the volatiles in here because this is why they're losing their targets so easy. So let's go in here and say, let's borrow from the Get group target max range 500. Get group target max. Blast target only for player. Yeah, they're probably going to do something similar to the following with this one, where they will go and create a more open area. I've seen that they've gotten better at their open worlds as far as vegetation and all that goes. So hopefully they'll figure out a way. I mean, they've got all the buggy code still in the game, so potentially they'll do horses and buggies. So let's see what this turned up. So we want the broad search. It found nothing. I hate it when they do that. Target evaluation type. They've got this concept of enemy in the system. So I wonder what happens if I do like enemy. Might be changing too many things at this point. I might need to just fire this up and see what happens. But let's go in here and say volatile. Let's let them chase the player. Keep last position. Let's let them get up to like 45 so that they actually remember the player. They have a longer grace period, prediction time, line of sight. Let's see what this does. So let's just, well, actually, I'm almost done with the sensors. So, I mean, for shits and giggles, here's the threatening code. Threatening enabled, melee engage distance. And it's just false. So this isn't even, here's another system that is turned off. Has weird spacing as well, where they've obviously deleted code. Some nice gaps in here. Let's go in here, say human default, say true, and turn down warning time. We'll see what happens. They had a threat system in the first game that I turned off for my mod way back, and so eventually, and then here's our react to flashlight code, and then as well as a higher level reacts to sunlight code. Easy enough. I know before I was modifying the actual behavior code, but here it is as like a higher level code. Time to max effect in sunlight, time to max effect in UV. Fighters don't react to sunlight. They react to sunlight. Regeneration, suiciders, virals reacts to sunlight. Chargers react to sunlight. Ignore lights in half angle. It's a new fun one. Okay. Everybody should be reacts to flashlight, and they are, except the alpha zombie. Interesting. And then this regeneration delay. I'm not really sure what that is, so we'll just leave that alone. All right, so let's delete this out and let's go back to our source. Let's go back to our base folder. Let's do an update here and see what we got. Oh, did I really just? All right, good. Okay. Go ahead and load this up. So Fowler left a message on the Discord, and he was asking about the PKs in the towers. And it's an interesting one because I turn the towers back on at night so that they stay out there during the evening. It is kind of dumb because if they jump down from the towers, they all just get slaughtered pretty quickly. It is night after all. The concept of even having them in the towers at night, that was regeneration of their UV. So it was like UV. So I'm guessing it's like if they go out of the UV, how long before it stops hurting them or something like that, or time for it to restore health if they've gotten out of the UV. So when they run into a dark zone, that kind of thing. But what I might do is that before, we wanted to see, oh, well, that worked. He just kind of left his buddy, though. He saw me, but the other ones... So this is a FOV thing. Look at that. Just spawned right back in. And he ran away. So that's the thing, is he didn't run to attack me. He ran away because of the retreat code. So if we... Here's our little shamblers, our little Romeros. I made them dumber. Are they working? I guess I broke the AI. Go down and... They definitely had some activation issues there. They're still seeing me, so even without looking at me, they're now definitely seeing me. So they're definitely registering me. I mean, it's great for the retreat code. They're not running away, are they? Everybody just running at this point?
That didn't sound like a fire. Tired of crazy shit.
Yeah, Allergic Peanut, thanks for your support and jumping on here, man. Thanks for shouting out. I appreciate it. So the retreat code has now definitely been dialed up for everyone. So human AI are like, nah, I'm out. So the high threat just got higher, essentially, I think, based on what I just did. So let's go back real quick and review. So the danger zone profile, I did turn on the danger zone profile, and I've increased this pretty dramatically. The target sensor code, probably not. And then the threatening. Let's start one at a time here. So what if we go to our danger sense code, and let's go in here and say, keep this file in editor, say no. Go back to our danger sense and let's turn this back to 0. And let's just kind of go one at a time here to figure out what is causing, because that's the threat system, and that's what I need to figure out to get this all working is how are they analyzing the world and how are they determining what is a challenge and what isn't. So let's go here and then, it's tedious, but let's just try it out. And then I guess while we're at it, we can also test out the volatiles should have been updated at night. So the volatiles actually should be more dangerous. So we'll go ahead and check that as well. And the thing that always throws me off here is that, like, I get super nitpicky with it, and I get like, very like, we can make it better. Like, I would never release it in this state. Um, but the funny part is that it's still better than the vanilla settings, and so it's like sometimes I have to remember, like, just because I can't get it to do everything that I want, it's still an improvement. So we're gonna have to just roll with some of these things here and just see. I'm gonna try to have. I think at this point I'm gonna push out the final release for 0.1 and try to get a solid update out. And I guess this is going to be a official pre-update to 0.1. But I'm not going to take time to go write documentation at this point and call the mod, nearing completion. If so, it really is just based on their line of sight. So their FOV got sharper for me. Here's our shamblers. They're heading over here for these guys. Let's see if we can reset them. Are these guys fake? Yeah, he reset. So it's obviously not the code that was needed. So let's go ahead here and say, so it's not the danger zone. It has to be the FOV. Obviously, the sensors are now working with the up. So we went too far with their ability to see up, obviously. So we can dial that in now, which was the hope there. So let's go back, sensors, go to FOV, and let's go in here and say, so for human default, we set this human up to 15, which is drastically higher. Let's go back down and say like 6, 7, 8, and then 6, 6, 6. That. Let's see how that does. For their ability to like not move. Um, it could be their target sensors where I change the target evaluation type to enemy. That could have definitely broken things just because I'm not sure what that should be. So let's go back and fix that. Target evaluation. Let's go in here and say I turned it to enemy, but let's go in there and fix that. And for the human, firing on a few of those things, and then the threatening profile. I guess I'll just get rid of this in case that is causing the system to freak out for whatever reason. This should be more in line with the vanilla at this point. We've increased the line of sight code by its range, but that should only apply if they're actually looking at the player, which field of view is going to be a lot different than line of sight. Give this a second. The field of view sensor is going to be different from the line of sight sensor in the sense that the field of view sensor is supposed to be their overall scope of vision. Their line of sight should be when they're pointing at the object or they're looking in the object's direction. Technically, I'm not sure at this point how developed the line of sight system is versus the FOV system. So what I want to try to dial in here is the FOV system, which will hopefully inform the line of sight system. But I'm hoping to actually get a little bit more realistic balance with, the stealth system. As a couple of people have mentioned for I Am Legion, stealth has become pretty much impossible. That's what I'm trying to work on right now, of saying like, okay, if I want to go in here and that was actually a pretty good reaction over there, in the sense that zombie is just slaughtering those guys. So I think we fixed the issue. Let's see if they've heard the zombies. This is now handing off to throwing range. I hope they're not going to react. And they haven't set up the alert like, hey, by the way, we're all about to get jumped. No, so they're still broken. Is this an activation range thing? Look at that. And you can see these guys are still. Okay. Let me try something. Let me see if there's any way that my behavior trees are impacting them, because I've been writing in a lot of experimental code. Let me confirm that I'm not part of the problem here. With the sensor issue and the activation above a certain height, what would be causing that? Vertical range up. Sight, motion. I'm going to actually just stage these, and then I'm going to go in here to the sensors, and let's go in here and just actually delete. Before we do that, let's actually just delete them from here so we can start to determine what is causing. I've already deleted such a large chunk of code. Let me launch really quick, because I just removed the entire behavioral system. So let's confirm. hopeful I didn't cause the problem here. So, confirmed. Because they're up on a car. So the biters also need like a directional attack that will attack upwards. Because, I mean, look at these guys. So it's still like a... It's still like an activation issue. It's like a distance activation almost. They're just so dumb. My little gravity boots. Running through zombies, they don't care. Backing into zombies. Oh, there's zombies? Okay. I don't feel so bad anymore. This will be increasing the damage on this crossbow. But yeah. Okay, I think it's safe to say that it's not my code that's making them stupid. Let's go ahead and just clear this. I just wanted to check and make sure that we're still heading forward in a positive direction here. So let's see. Let's go into the sensors, and again, let's clear the sensor data and check these guys, see what they do without sensor modifications. Put the behavioral code back in. Oh man. So they immediately started up. They're listening. So that's better. They're still not working together, like, at all. But this is better, I guess. Where are the other ones? So without the sensor data for the biters are back to being stupid. So their hearing systems and everything are back to being vanilla, so they're not actually going to come over anymore. I guess my question is, if I go down, he saw me, sees me, and then runs away. Okay. He sees me, runs away. Howdy, boys. Well, and while we're at it, I thought this bug was fixed. Looks like this bug is still in there, so I guess this is a great time to find out how we can get this fixed. Good to know. Not fixed. So actually, I'm going to use this time we're going to do a couple of things. So let's figure out first which sensor is causing the failure, because I need to know what modification is changing the actual ability, because we need the biters to be more intelligent, obviously, and we need to figure out which sensor is causing these guys to not be able to be able to act appropriately. So let's go through here and just so the hearing sensor is probably what is causing them to get first upset. Let's go down and get rid of some of these additional ones and just leave like FOV sensors, the hearing sensors, and the interest sensors. I think those are the ones that are the primary ones for where we're having these problems. And then for the spawn code, this was a bug that I was looking at a long time ago, and it came down to the spawn system, I believe. So let's go in here and delete the spawn system, and let's just see if they even show up at this point. But something is basically detecting when they're outside of a bound. I'm going to give this a second. Something is looking for the spawn box, and it's saying when they leave the spawn zone, fill it back up. And this does not apply to the zombies except every now and then, but I feel like I see it the most on the humans. And so I've been trying to get to the bottom of this one for a while. I've got a really good use case right next to my spawn, so let's see if we can go through and figure out why this is happening. But it's just really interesting how it's like you go to solve one thing and that leads down the road of like 500 more things to try to improve. And that's just an AI thing, I think, in general, of gameplay in general. It's trying to solve for the entire game. So they're no longer paying attention to the sound over here. They're just kind of hanging out. Zombies hear them. Okay, so we have a reaction here. Hey, Zenzo HD. Welcome to the group. So we had this one, he's now attacking. So I think it's the actor sensor code. And I think with these other ones, I think this is the rush code. I think this is like the tactics code, where it's basically it's only doing them one at a time. If we go down here, then they're scared, they run away. So we know that code is working. And here we are spawning in again. So it's not the spawn code. Good to know. Ooh. Ooh, that is that's a hefty number of bandits there. That would have been a good fight. Let's see. So if it's not the spawn code, let's bring the spawn code back in. I'm guessing at this point it's the actor code, the actor sensor profiles. Let's bring back in everything else and launch again. And this time let's go in here and delete the AI life folder. And that might be a challenge because I don't know if they're still going to spawn if the AI life is gone, but yeah, to your comment, Dante, which I think you got a shout out from Jeff there. I think that the challenge is that the mod is putting in AI into the world that are not meant to be there. So the challenge is that there's now AI that's not supposed to be there. So therefore, they don't have governing code that says this is how you behave in this environment because they're not meant to be in that environment ever. And so what's shocking about the encounter code is that most of these bandits are spawned in via encounter, and those encounters are supposed to be kind of like encapsulated in a way that doesn't allow other zombies to really go and impact the encounters. And so I think the challenge here is that now we have bandits going into the world without the encounter code. Excuse me. And that is causing them to. I think I'm going to get rid of the Romero code as well as a default, so that way it's a little bit faster to see these reactions. They're going to die a lot faster, so I've been hoping the Romero code will help. So they're broken again. So it is one of the new. It's one of the new systems that's breaking them, which is interesting. So that's determining based on height. And then I'm guessing that's then based on proximity, but like that one guy stood in the center and did nothing. These two guys have not helped at all. So if I go down here, they run away. I don't want them all to die yet. They go down here, they run away. There they go. Damn it. So something outside of the AI life is causing them. So both the AI life is not the problem, and then the so it's not AI life. We know it's one of the new sensors that's causing the problem. So let's go back into the sensors. Let's add the actor sensor profile. Let's remove some of the target code. Let's add back AI life. There's the animation scripts. That shouldn't be it. Then there's AI. Technically, they should spawn in with AI. Technically, they should spawn in with that. I think it'd probably be this AI spawner. I think we can get rid of presets and find out if that's causing it. So let's go ahead and just load back in. With some, so Wako just posted on the Discord. He's mentioning the volatiles and the dark zones coming out and not attacking the player. They just come out, run around, go back in. I tried increasing the amount of time they would take for them to exit, so they're less likely to exit now. The challenge is when they do exit, they're going after the player and then they're immediately turning around. What I might try to do is go into their file and say that if it's daytime, try to attack the player really quickly. If they can't attack the player, basically give them a timer to where the timer says you have this much time to attack the player. If you can't make it happen during this time, fall back, kind of thing. I think that'll take more time. I forgot to get rid of the Romero zombies. Even with, so I did this earlier with the vanilla code. Okay, so I don't think it was that. I think it's the, so if that's not causing it, so they're still requiring that activation. So now they're activating. Run, and they respawn. So it's not presets. Okay, it's not presets. And at this point, we're down to one new system on the sensors, which is the danger zone. And I guess the FOV sensors. So I guess the FOVs could still be causing it. So let's get rid of that. Which is interesting. A long time ago, I thought it was my config file that was causing it to not work properly with the injectable code. But based on that, I would say that it's actually not. So let's go in here and say, let's kill the different modules, the includes, the data presets. I mean, none of this stuff. The behavior places, it's a single file. None of that. data. I mean, it's going to be any of them. I guess it's going to be this. The LOD policy is probably doing it. Let's just kill these, and then let's go back, confirm that the sensor stuff is fixed. It should definitely be fixed at this point. And then let's try to dial back in. We have this one spawn bug, if I can fix the spawn bug. For the Romero zombies.
Anybody else seen this shit? You gotta be kidding me. Ain't that... You shitting me? Are you kidding me? The hell was that? Soldier? You can't be serious. Hey, I got you. The hell was that? You gotta be kidding me. Are you kidding me?
You gotta be kidding me. Are you kidding me? You gotta be kidding me.
Ain't that a bitch?
I gotta turn off their, like,
Seen this shit?
I gotta turn off their speech. Or make it optional or some shit.
Good man.
Alright.
What's going on? You serious? Soldier? The hell was that? See, you shitting me? Anybody else seen this shit? Are you kidding me? Who was that robot?
That still fails.
Well, piece of head.
So they're still spawning in. So it's not the LODs.
Fuck this dude up. Something's off. Yeah, you motherfucker.
So it's not the LODs. Let's add back the sensors that I think are probably safe and clear at this point. So if we go in here to scripts, params, and say line of sight, let's do those bottom ones. And then for the AI, there's a chance these are causing it, but like, I think we can afford to kill all of this, but the actual behavior trees. I mean, technically we can also do the behavior trees, but there's no way the behavior trees are causing spawn data to happen. So So it really does mess up their line of sight, like almost completely. I'm really curious which sensor is causing this. Alright, run away. Yeah, run away. Interesting thing is I didn't have one of the other guys, the first guy that ran away, he didn't come back yet. There he did. Okie dokie. So one of the new sensors is still causing it. This is interesting. So let's just go ahead and get rid of the target in the line of sight. We'll leave the object and the motion sensor. I think for that one, I think for like the motion sensor, I basically just added those guys to the list and I fixed the typo. Maybe that's what's causing it. Let's leave it in there and see if that's what's causing it, and then that will at least confirm. So AI has now been removed, which means at this point it has to be is there a chance in hell that it's the prefabs? If it's the prefabs, that means they're working. I've never had them work before. Let's just go ahead and test again and try to get to the bottom of this. We're already down this rabbit hole, so all right, so they're acting appropriate now. So a line of sight issue. Yeah. Okay. There they go. They're running away. You guys run away too. Hi. And they respawned. Well, confirmed. Prefabs don't work. Okay. So with the last two that we pulled out there, that should mean that it is down to the target sensor profile. Which let's compare really quick. Let's do a comparison between these two files. I've added humans to it. No, I added biters to it, and that worked. With the humans, I didn't actually notice that there is by distance, favor player, and then in line of sight. So I think maybe I messed this up by getting rid of the in line of sight part. Because everything else is true. All it's basically is supposed to be doing the opposite of making them ignore everything more because I've turned off some of these additional ones. Um, keep target range. Maybe we turn down the range and prediction time target, right? Potential target required, trail required. First, let's get these guys working, and then let's figure out how to dial this in a little bit more. So let's just put back in the target sensor and see if that breaks them. Let's put back in the prefabs. Let's go to the scripts and let's kill these main scripts here. We'll leave the AI present pools because we need that from the spawn. Let's close this, run this. Interesting.
How the fuck?
Oh, the density settings. That would be why. I sitting there going like, what on earth? It's because the density settings are lost. So there's nobody spawning there because of that. And then I don't think any of these other ones are needed. Yeah. I know this stuff's not very exciting, guys. Sorry if this is tedious, but welcome to the suck. Thanks, Imp. So it looks like we fixed. Hi. Hi. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, so I think at that point, or I think from this point, I could probably start dialing it in a little bit better. Let's see if we got our spawn issue. Nope. What on earth? Let's see. Factions is the zone levels. Armor system, the damage system. What's left? Spawn system has already been cleared. I mean, there's a chance it's the density settings. I guess what I could do is I could clear the density settings and then find out if they respawn, but that makes no sense. If that was what was doing it, then that makes little to no sense. Interesting. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to switch back over to just focusing on the rest of the stuff, and we will continue to try to dial in the that spawn issue, just because I got a lot of other things to look at here. But that one just irks the hell out of me. I don't know why that is happening, but let me. Hey, Roland, welcome back. Um, okay, so let's look at the code for fleeing and see. Now that I've messed with the sensors, they're feeling a little bit better. I think the one that I would like to see work is the field of view. I had to pull that one back out. But that being said, that was before understanding what was broken. So let's put the field of vision back in. Let's get that FOV sensor back in. Let's go to the. So even if this does make people run immediately, that should be fine. We should be able to. All right, so I started reading the comments over here and I got distracted. Let me rebase here. So we've got that sensor fixed. Let's start looking again at the actual code for our AI and see if we can start to dial in our AI better. So currently they're running away from the player. What I was going to say is that even if they run away, that's technically fine because we can dial in the field of view, field of vision, field of view, by using this. So I mean, even if it is causing them to flee a little bit sooner, that might be a good thing here for testing purposes. So if we go over to the human side, let's go to the concept of retreat. And basically what we want them to do, we need to clean this up a little bit. So this isn't so much. Let me go in here and then, no, focus on this first. Go ahead and clear to the right. And then let's go ahead and start fresh here. So essentially we need to go in here and say behavior tree, humans, where's it located? It's in retreat, which is right here, and then retreat. Gotta read through this really quick. So it gets its target and it says optional enabled force retreat from player. I'm not sure if this is actually getting cut off. So what I'm going to do is actually say if combat target high threat, let's pull that out really quick. And so that way we can focus on not if they're a high threat or not, but how they are doing. So if they are below a certain amount of health, and they'll try to fall back, it will go down and say, and then also we can add a couple more conditions in here. So for example, these systems should be based on panic, which panic is starting to look at if a group member has died recently, that kind of thing. Are other group members alive? I've got this set to a minimum count of 2. Right now, they're kind of ignoring that, so they're kind of blowing right through. They're blowing right through most of that stuff. And so because of that, they're supposed to band together here, but they're not actually really doing it. Interesting that they're adding this part about the weapon. And while we're at it, let's actually go ahead and just, I'm going to go back to our human AI behavior and let's type in zombie. That's it. Just if they're, so if they're a zombie and any of these other conditions are true. So potentially we could buff this up a little bit to where it's like, instead of having them flee every couple of seconds when someone dies, we could say, yes, they do flee eventually, but they're less likely to flee. So, like, for example, I did 12 on like 30-second window. That basically, 30 seconds, most of the time they're dead by that point anyway. We'll do 15 seconds for now and just see how that does. But target radius. What I want to do here is say this is throw weapon and then this is withdraw. I'm assuming with the retreat thing, I assumed it would hand off to the actual retreat system, but I'm not actually seeing. So this must go back up to the top and then say if retreat is true. So it's exiting all the way to the top and then it's going back in. So we're back to retreat. Basically what we need to do is say group, move to group gather, go to group target. What does this one say? Basically group target is chasing, is hold required, is defend required, is position restricted area. Again, with this two-hand melee thing, I really don't understand why all this stuff is specific to the two-hand melee. I mean, potentially because the two-hand melee characters are supposed to run to the aid of the one-handed. But I think I'm going to get rid of that condition. I'm not really sure. Let's go and say human base, human base, human base, go to group target. So, I mean, that would explain why the PK are working together more often, is that usually their patrol group, they've got the PK or they've got the two-handed. So let's go and just kill this and say that they move to the group target regardless. And this was just kind of a situational, so we can actually just say move to the group target. And then, how was that structured? It was a sequence memory. And then said if it's that, then do that. Remember how they're setting these up. So then position an angle, turn to group, investigate, notice. So I think this is actually the like annoying one, is where they do that stupid thing where they're sitting there going like, huh. They should actually move. I mean, instead of notice, what is it? It's for the noise type. It's let's go use our other file here. For the noise type, it should be attract. And let's actually see how many different things. So let's see if we go over to the human code and say for the human code what this is set up to do. So if we go in here and say notice, that like I know I just changed that on mine, but notice should come up more than that. This is in human base, human group target. I keep running into this here. Let's say, is this noticing? So did I accidentally move this? Go to group. No. Go to group target. It's probably the first time I've actually seen this mess up like this. Go in here and say attract. This must have the mod folder open. That's annoying. All right, say, hopefully that hasn't led to other things getting missed. We'll say open folder, then we'll do one for human. Basically, the problem there was it was pointing at the end result files, not at the 4 files that I haven't modified. So any target noticed, track noticed, any target noticed. So they've got notice in there. They've got this idea of stimulus type enemy. Hopefully I shouldn't have to take that code and try to spread that to more. Hopefully that should just carry over if that's set up correctly in the system. They have like this concept of like go to forced, which I think is a conditional code that's based on like their different scripted events. Call for help, chase, death, idle, walk to, investigate, point of interest, enemy detection, enemy in sight. So have I done this one? I have. So what have I changed? Basically, I got rid of the code that says our other ones already investigating. That could have backfired though. I feel like if I'm reading this right, it says point of true. If others are inspecting true, then disable the point of interest. And then down beneath that, they say can inspect, set to false, and then send it back to standby. So I think I'm understanding this correctly. So I've got that pulled out. Probably don't need that selector there if that's the case. I've got this selector kind of floating down here. Probably need to do like this. So it detects the enemy. And then for the attack, call for help. This is where I was then going to say, I want to figure out where they're calling this. So if we go to the sublime and then say close, find in files, go to group. It's all the way up at the top. All the way up at the top, it's telling it to go to the group. So basically anytime that there's an investigate or anything like that, the default action is that they should be going to the group target. What I might be able to add to that is this move to group gather and basically say, let's see if I basically, so instead of the retreat, let's see if I can basically say at this point, if they are retreating, disable retreating, and then allow them to constantly be moving towards each other. So this was under generic, move group gather. What do I have? So I have a larger radius, and then is avoidance active? I actually might want that back in there. Okay, let's kill that. Oop, nope, 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 nope. All right, so that is the one in there. And then basically what I think I need to do here is say up at the very top, if they're going to the group target, then when they go to retreat, maybe the idea here is that they retreat, and then the very next thing we have, if we can get them to come out of that retreat, is to see how they have it named. Say they've got it as kind of an optional in their own code here. Let's go ahead and say that. So this should start to move them closer together. I guess what we'll see here is that at the end of retreat, we go back to retreat, they have this external tree that says weapon stowing. I don't think they should actually be doing weapon stowing. I think they should probably be gathering more than they're stowing their weapons. And let's go test how this all works. So let's go and say these data, let's jump back and then say source. And let's see what we got. We're definitely getting rid of that voice nonsense. So he sees him, but he's not helping still. I don't know why he's using throwing weapons that close either. Didn't run away. And based on high level target, did fix these guys. So they're no longer hear that sound where it's deciding between inside and out. Just concerned that if they can't take down, that's a nice one. Here comes the PK to the rescue down there. Ooh. Jesus. Okay, wow. Help me out, PK. These guys are literally shit, man. Ooh. Call me crazy, but that works. PK work the best at this point. I mean, they're just doing the most. I gotta figure out where the PK are getting their values. has a blade sticking out of his head.
Why is this shit? Someone who's business. All right, you. That
Okay.
getting the hell out. Why is he ever looking out?
That is.
Aren't you like the PK?
Savage.
Is it supposed to look like that?
Then
I don't
he
have
goes
time
to.
for this shit.
I mean, overall, that was a pretty good battle. Moving like that. I'm not sure what was causing that. We have this watchtower over here. I'm assuming those guys came down the road from this watchtower over here. Watchtower is abandoned. Yeah. So, interesting. Okay, so let's see here. Let's try searching the human code here. And even trying to find the concept of the PK. They don't. So the PK are using the generics. The bandits are using. So it can't be down to the profiles. I mean, I guess it could be where they have these knife throwers. So hang on, let me. That's the wrong thing. So they have this comparison between, or we can have this comparison between a one hand for our guys. That's not right. Oh, that's because this is the forehand. This is before it's modified. So then we have this concept of the one hand versus the one hand. The generic can throw a knife, which means that the bandit fodder. Okay. And then attack. And then they're using this code called one handed. It's the same across. So if we go back to bandit fodder, they're using this one handed override that's not based on tier system. Why is that? And then what is in that one versus the tier system? So here they can do one-handed combat, do attack recoil. So let's compare that to like a tier 1. Okay, I think I'm starting to see a problem here. So did I correct that with my code? Did I catch that before? I don't think I did. Go back, say human profiles, bandit fodder. I'm assuming it's the same for the knife throwers. They're using the one-handed tier 6, so they're doing the right thing. They're not. Which is just interesting. So what we need to do here is we need to go to the generics. And, I mean, maybe this could be these are all classic up classic examples of where it's like it doesn't make sense of why one system's working different than the other, and then you investigate a little bit more, and you're sitting there like, what? Why do it like that? Like, why are these guys getting dumbed down to these? So let's go ahead and just go through here and upgrade each one of these guys to the same knowledge system. So that should make our bandits, even though we do have bandits early game, maybe this was meant because the bandits are only supposed to be in like the very early game kind of thing, so they're not meant to go on throughout the game. But this should help with our bandits being more intelligent. Okay. And then also under the, in case there are guys looking at that code, which that's in here, we should have under the constants, under here, this is the constants over one-handed. Here they have the concept of having a bow and a bunch of other things, which makes them smarter. Go down to like the tier. Yep. Okay. So then the next thing, so we need to probably turn back on the threat system, because basically they were running away before, but only because of the threat system they were actually retreating. Fill up to here. That's right. So they were retreating, and then I guess it's also dependent on if they're required to defend. So if they're required to defend, but then it should go down here and say, otherwise, if this is a condition, then they can run away. But the threat system is kind of what is still, let me go in here and say, which one is it? I have so many at this point. Threat. Move around, defend area when threat level is higher. So they have a bunch of code in here that basically says if they're this weapon type, go and do these things. The interesting part is like, is this working? So this human threatening code, let's say they are getting threatening turned on. They are able to threaten based on this. It feels like they don't do it. I mean, it doesn't feel like they go to the best position or any of this other stuff that this code is mentioning. So it's basically mentioning, if they have a weapon, then go and try to get predicted locations and keep moving kind of thing, find positions, keep moving in a different direction kind of thing. But I don't feel like this is like how they actually operate. So what if we go in here and grab, so we have a seceder down here. We go down here to our bowman combat and say combat bow. And then from here, attack bow. So attack bow, single shot. Attack AI. Are they reachable? Are they in range? Attack approach. Has a path. Here's technically where we could say, this is under my mod. Yes. This is technically where we could say if they have this bow, then go and do this. I actually want to say probably get rid of the threat level part. We should probably just have them being more intelligent in general. But this is a sequence based on if they have this bow, go do this. Maybe let's see if that works. Because this is attack, approach, push, shift, tackle. Let's see if this works for the bow. See, is the attack quick? I feel like they use this cautious thing a lot. I mean, I get it, and I want them to be like, I don't want them to run headlong into something that doesn't make sense. Like I want them to figure out the best way to approach, but at the same time, I feel like they are constantly cautious. Okay, well, I think I'm at a point where I probably want to give this another shot. But then also, if we go in here and say throw, inside their constants, let's go in here and say in here and say they're one-handed, tier one. Combat slot melee limit. Let's see what that is for here. So potentially this could also still be based on the slot number. So like with the knife throwers, they don't have to wait for a slot to open kind of thing. I'm going to try to add this to the code here and see if setting this slot limit to 0 will allow them to actually go attack without having to wait for a slot to open. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I think it was in the video earlier that I'm still trying to get rid of the concept of the slots, just because they don't make a ton of sense. But let's see here. This will allow us to at least go test common areas. And then also with the knife thrower, essentially what I'm looking for is if we find out where this code is being called, and I need to go here in 1 second, but let me look here and say, let's see, pull out throwable, pull out throw. So we know that it's not just the grenader that can do this, but potentially this is for the all right, check this out. I think I can actually do this pretty quick. Okay, so under the combat common, go to human combat, and then say one-handed. We go here and look at this again. This here at the end of the sequence, they have a runner down on the combat position. So this is not a combat. So this is actually the position, which is down under common. one-handed. So this is actually too far down to do what I was trying to do. Position. I didn't. Position. So under that, combat, human one-handed. That's actually where I was wanting to be. Is this concept of position and essentially even better. So back under human base. Human base. Pull out weapon. Human pull out weapon. Pull out. So when I wrote this code earlier, under the combat, update, I think, common and group. What it should have been was not an optional. Well, actually, maybe an optional here. And then under this one, it should have been I'm going to test this real quick, and then I actually have to step away for a little bit, regather my thoughts here. This has definitely been a long one, trying to get some of these things working. Here and say, see a bug right there anyway. So let's go in here and do this, and let's go back to the beginning here. this. And did we officially fix everything with the params? I think I tried to add it back, but I'm not sure at this point. Let's go back and say, essentially, we determined that motion sensor, target sensor, sensors, all of those are there. Danger zone, FOV, hearing. Yep. All right. They're all there. I think before I was seeing that they have that issue where you have to jump down again. So potentially it could still be the FOV. So let's go ahead and pull the FOV out real quick. Or first I need to do this. Scripts. FOV. Let's go ahead and launch this up. Google my location. All right, let's go try to find. Oh, okay. What are they doing? I don't think they were running away there as much as they ran into the building for whatever reason. I think they were having trouble finding me for some reason. So they're hyper focused on me right now. If I get lost, PK up on the roof. Oh shit. Came and found me. So they're still hyper focused. These guys don't seem to care that they're zombies. Now they're fighting. It's like, I think one of the things I need to fix is their code that says throw, because, like, this is absurd. Right. Throw a stone. Throw a rock. Throw a stone. Throw a rock. Stone. Okay. Well, I think the end result is that the throw code, they are still hyper focusing the player. The sensor still has not been fixed to where they are, and then the threat code is out of there now, so they are not determining that there's a threat, and so they're just dying. So not quite as productive as I was hoping. Let's see if we can go find the different bandits over here. So these guys, do these guys have their bows? Are they using them appropriate? Yes. Dodge worked pretty well there. Oof. We still beat them. So yeah, so the archers are working well. I think the challenge is that they seem like they were not really using that best location. So I'm not really sure if that threatening code is in there to where they really are going and finding their best location or whatnot. Then that needs some refinement. The throwing is way too much. So I need to look at the throwing code and figure out how to improve these guys to where they're not throwing. I also need to get rid of all the sticks in the game. Why there's sticks? Oh shit! So the hydrants. I'm not sure what happened with the hydrants. To where the water hydrants are getting damaged like that, but that's the fun one. We go in here real quick. We'll have our PK acting normal. We've got some patrolling groups over there that look really snazzy. We have the PK. And so I also have to figure out what this investigation thing is, where they're just doing this little lean around. I need to force them. I need to force them to go and move forward. So if they spot something, they actually continue to. There we go. So they became alerted by something. They're just not using any type of reinforcement code, and maybe that's the problem, is that maybe they need to. There's that movement issue. So that's another one to look for. But this. I just don't get what this is either. He deserved to die. That's a bug. That was a bug. That was a roll me along bug. I have no idea what that was. So if you're in crouch and you press shift, it'll dance you along the floor like that. Or sticky keys fired. Okay. You deserve it, Aiden. Alright. Alright, guys. I am going to take a break on here, and I will continue to look at these problems here in a little bit. Thank you guys so much for coming and joining me, making this a little bit more fun. Obviously, this was not the most productive one of these that I've had. It's still kind of an ongoing thing with bugs. You can see here where I think he's trying to switch weapons. So that's a good sign. It's on update, so that's the problem. Is that he's trying to switch weapons, but it's on update. So looks like some of these guys are getting the code to be able to switch their weapons. It just needs to be in the right system. And so potentially here very shortly I could have the concept of AI that are actually able to switch their weapons out and use different weapons inside the play space. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll let you guys know when I've launched again, and hopefully we'll have more results next time.